Hey everyone, it's UA from the Strictly Broken YouTube channel, and I know it's kind of crazy. UA is doing 2 deck profiles of Weiss Schwarz in the same week. I felt like if I did my 10th anniversary deck profile, that I had to also do my Gara slash red. What is it? Red, green, yellow, Sao deck profile at the same time. This is the deck that, if there were physical tournaments running, I would play this deck, and I still would play this deck even though there's a bunch of new releases. I think this deck is very well positioned. The way I describe this deck is that I describe it as like a very strong skill check deck where if you have very good Weiss fundamentals, just like knowing like winning field is super important, winning field defensively is also super important, and having like perfect optimal 7-card hands at any point in the game, like great Weiss fundamentals, this deck heavily rewards that, and it's really good at doing all these things. So like if I went to any given tournament, I honestly feel like I'm one of the better players in the room at any tournament. I just feel like I'm always well positioned with this deck because of the tools it has. So like if I saw this tier list, not to flame, but shout outs to Pittsburgh Weiss Schwarz for making this tier list. I thought it was a great video to watch. But they, like, Carmen, you're my bro, but you put Sao at the bottom of the barrel tier list wise, and like honestly, if I played an English tournament right now, I'm not playing any of the new fancy stuff. I'm playing this deck every single time. And so I feel very insulted that Sao was that low on the tier list. So I have to make this deck profile. And this is Japanese, but I'm going to say which card I would replace if I were playing this deck in English, and it's going to like pop up somewhere on the screen for you guys for all you English players who want to play Sao or big Sao or are big Sao fans to know that, you can play Sao in English. I think the deck's really strong, this deck in particular. So without further ado, let's get into it. First off, I have 4 of this Kirito clean cut. You don't play any less than 4 of this card, and this card needs no explanation. It is just super, super good for the game plan. Being big is also a big deal because you can just start plussing with your Silica back row at like level 0 with this card. Absolutely phenomenal. Honestly, nothing much else to say. Everyone knows this card at this point who plays Sao. Next up, Japanese, right? So you're playing 4 copies of the coin flip level 0. You can't play this in English. The card you will replace for this card is the Asana level 0. People call it the Lewd Asana. When it gets reversed, it goes to stock, and also you can do some shuffling 2 characters in thing, which actually comes up for your. It's very fringe. Like you put something in that you want to search for, and then you can search for it, or you have 1 card left in deck, and you can get 3 clean triggers. But this card is a plussing card. Super important. The slot is basically a plussing slot, and the Asana level 0 is not a plus generating card, but stock, especially in this deck, you can see very apparently that stock leads to pluses because you have Silica back row, you have Yuki combo, you have Amagi, and those are all stock costed pluses. So if you're playing the Asana that goes to stock, if it does go to stock, you can use that card to then convert it into an actual plus. And so yeah, you're not playing a card that pluses for free like this Kirito Asana, but you're playing a card that, throughout the long game will recover its plus in some shape or form. So that card is actually incredible. There's even an argument that card is better than this card in the Japanese list as well. It's just ultimately I decide to play this one every time because it goes to your hand, so you can justify having it at level 2 for clocking for yellow purposes, and in that sense it's great. It's also like you're playing 17 zeros, so sometimes you won't draw hands of like 3 zeros. If you go first and this card flips, next turn you just need 2 other zeros, and you can attack 3 times with 3 zeros. When you're playing the Asana, if it's gone, you need to then draw 3 more zeros to do attack 3 times. So ultimately, those are reasons why this is better in Japanese. But that card is a fantastic replacement. The go to stock Asana. In fact, you probably won't even notice a difference, like in most games. In fact, there are a lot of reasons why that card is even better. So yeah, definitely very easy replacement there. Next up, 3 Silica, 3 Amagi. These cards are just absolutely bonkers. Silica, probably one of the best cards they ever printed in this game, honestly. This card is just such a powerful toolbox card. And then Amagi, really helpful to get you out of first deck. Super, super good. Just two very powerful level 0 cards. And Sal's very blessed to be able to have such powerful level 0 cards. Like, honestly, like a lot of series won't even, they dream of having such powerful level 0 lineups. Sal just has access to them. Starting at turn 2 of level 0, you can just start plussing like crazy. You can just like Kirito, Silica, tap effect, and then attack two more times. So you're getting like what, a clean cut plus and then a Silica plus in the same turn on turn 2. Like some decks level 1 combos get that much value, and you're getting that value as early as turn 2. Finally, 3 copies of the Drop Search. This one is an anniversary promo one, just because it's foil, I can play it. But I don't play any anniversary synergy stuff anymore in this list, so this can easily be the regular Drop Search that is in foil that is available in English. So easy. It's not even a replacement. They're literally the same card. So yeah, just for consistency purposes, this card frequently will just end up fetching you the Silica, or sometimes you actually use it to Drop Search for the Kirito just to get a cheap plus that way at level 0. It's just a consistency card. There are a lot of cards that you want specifically in game plans, and like specifically just it's mainly Silica and Amagi, so having 3 more of these lets you have 6 copies of each of these cards without having to play 6 copies of each of these cards. So that's it for level 0. It's 17. Level 1, 4 Yuki, the Toolbox God card. Like, man, this card is absolutely bonkers. Not only is it the Toolbox God card because it searches 2, it also attacks for like a pretty big number, 6-5 offensively. Climax 7-5 is relevant. And then when you have your Silica, Amagi, the back row setup, you can pump an extra 1k off the act, and it's great stuff. You're scaling over most level 1 combos and most level 1 game plans post counter, which is a huge deal. Like, again, winning field is so important in Weiss, just as a fundamental, like if your deck is just not that strong but it's always winning field, you're like in a position to win games. Winning field is just, people underrate how strong winning field is every single time. So yeah, super good, super big, and super important for the toolbox element of the deck. 4 copies of this Lisbeth. This is probably one of the big changes. I'm gonna move this way a little bit. Keep forgetting to. Big change, just the fact that this card can randomly give you a free card, and it's not even a free card to your hand. It's a free card to the field, and it's a card that you don't mind even just having. Like, a lot of times in the level 1 game, when you did like double Yuki combo and one of these, if this card lives, like, you're super happy with this card being the card that lives because it can just keep trying to get that plus over and over again. And it's just a great attacker. It attacks for the same stat line as Yuki, 6-5 pre any like climax mitigations. And yeah, like, this card's such a good card. I don't understand why it's an uncommon. The fact that it just like keeps itself alive all the time. Sometimes when this card just pluses you for free like once or twice, it feels like you already won the game because you don't need to pay stock to get other pluses. And it being just the relevant attacker that can, like, it's a relevant attacker that has this effect. A lot of these like coin flip plussing cards don't scale well into the mid game, but this card's power line it has pretty good mid game scaling. So super good card. I was playing I think 2 or 3 back then, and I just ultimately ended up upping it to 4 because if you're not doing the Yuki combo, like if you're not looping it because you didn't get a second bar, this card is just better. You just field 3 of these and you just hope for the Hail Mary YOLO that 1 or 2 of them gets the plus, and then it's just too free. The game is just a wrap. And that's it for level 1. It's just 8 cards. Just 4 of these and 4 Yukis. Level 2, I got 3 money counters. This is, talk about like a tool that just favors good fundamentals. Money counter is, a forced cancel. And a forced cancel, in a lot of game states, sometimes you even use it at level 2. Sometimes you use it, usually use it at level 3, but level 2 you can use it to like get extra compression by, like if your opponent was going to hit you straight to 3, but you can just money counter, stay at 2, and then mill through your deck. Stuff like that. Money counter is just the best tool. If you have good fundamentals and you have money counter in your set, like, this card is just absolutely nuts. It wins so many games for you. Like, at level 3 too, like a lot of finishing like turns just cannot kill anymore if you have a money counter, period. With like somewhat decent compression. Like, the card is just absolute bonkers. I think I upped it to 3 from 2 because I just wanted to see it more, Finishers are getting pretty powerful, and having access to this just completely shuts out some decks from being able to kill you consistently. Because like, after you money, you're just healing 2 more times, and then they have to now set up so what happens is they try to like finish you, and if you have money counter, you don't die, and then on your turn then you heal down, and then because they try to finish you, they no longer have like a way or the resources to try to finish you again. So you can often survive another turn after that, and then you get that final turn. Like you have 3 turns of level 3 basically because of money counter, and it's just this one card lets you just stall at level 3 for like an extra 2 turns. Yeah, so it's absolutely crazy. Next up, we got 2 of this card. This is a new one. This Lisbeth. It's just really big. It attacks over early plays, and you can accelerate to give it 1500 and then on reverse stock charge from top. So if you can justify using it, let's say you're completely clean, your deck is like out of climaxes, and you can use this card, take the accelerate at level 2, just to be able to kill the early play, get the stock back. It's totally worth it because since you're out anyways, you're going to take that damage anyways, and now you can justify basically making this card into a 2-0 that basically can kill any early play. Card's really, really good. I honestly underrated this card for a long time, but it is very, very helpful in those, big early play matchups, one of those toolbox cards that you're trying to search for if your opponent's deck has strong early plays. 1 copy of this anti-change backup, Ditch 2 anti-change. This card is just too free because your hand size is always 7. The deck is one of the big selling points of this deck is that your hand sizes should be always 7 cards in hand, sometimes even 8 or sometimes even 9 if you had used coin flips. So this card, like especially if you coin flip the turn before, this card becomes so free. You just because you're floating 8 cards on your opponent's turn because of the coin flip, you can just use this card and it's just so much value. In English, you don't have access to this card, right? So you would probably just play the Agil counter. And the Agil counter is not nearly as good as this card because it costs 3 stock, but it's a fine replacement. I would always play an anti-change in this deck because an anti-change is like your 4th money counter. It also helps you just win the early play game plan. Like anti-change is one of those hard skill checking cards. Like if you're playing against anyone who's like just a little bit newer at the game, they're going to run into the anti-change. So you have to play it. So Agil is worth playing for sure. Next up, this memory kick counter. This card also doesn't exist in English. You should be playing... Actually, it might. Honestly, there might be a memory kick counter. But you can play just any counter here. Leafa counter, memory kick counter. All work out fine. I play the memory counter because you never know when something like this is going to come up. Like, you can kind of like... At level 2, you can kind of cheese people if they want to like run something in that has like an on-death effect and you just want to money counter them to deny. You have access to that play, and it's just really good in that sense. Yeah, this card is worth playing for sure. In English, you're playing basically Leafa counter in this slot or memory. I actually just don't know if English has a memory kick counter. I think it does, but don't quote me on it. Level 3 now, and this is where it gets super toolboxy again. People have seen deck profiles of this. Level 3 is just the ultimate toolbox lineup. I got 1 copy of this Asana, which, I'm going to put it down here because the glare is pretty bad. So level 3 is extremely toolbox heavy, but the one card that you always want to have in your hand going to level 3 is this card. Because this card, you play down in the back, and then this card will search for any card. So it self-replaces, and that's how you get your toolbox rolling. Because this card gets anything. You can, as long as you search for this card and hold it, starting from level 1, you go into level 3, you get this. The 2K support, the memory kick, super good stuff. Makes your level 3 is basically unkillable, backed up by counters. Really, really good. And memory kick is just really good to get rid of threats, right? So your slime early plays, for example, they cannot reuse them. And then stuff like even the power line is like relevant for like Fate. Fate has trouble killing your characters because of this card. And yeah, this card is just, you always want it. You just always want to hold it starting level 1. Get it as fast as possible going into level 3. You play it and you can start toolboxing. Here's some of the tools. So you got this Healer Asana. That is a searchable climax basically because it has on attack, pay 1, ditch 1, give your front row a soul. So if you ever don't have a climax in hand but you need a little bit of soul and you need a heal because it's also a healer, super flexible in that sense. 1 copy of Musashi just for ending games. If your opponent's high damage, you never use this card as a way to push damage. But if they're high damage, you can have access to this card for the guaranteed kill. It's also a 12k attacker, so if you need to spot remove something that's just a little bit bigger, this card hits that 12k number. 1 copy of this combos with a bar to mill 11 and burn for a number of triggers. It's just another finisher. If you have a bar in hand and you need to mill through your deck, because like the main use of this is if you go into 3 being out quite a bit, you can use this card to mill through your whole deck, reset your deck state, and then do the whole backed up by money counter compressed situation where you should be living living most turns. So yeah, it helps you mill through 11, and it's also good for Hail Mary kill situations. One copy of Lifa, Clock Kicker, and Check Top X. Check Top X helps you find money counter, and then the Clock Kicker is pretty good at just being a card that says, yo, I have this, you lose. Like 3-6, I have this card, you don't even need to play the game anymore, you're just dead. Or also it just, I used to not play this card, and this card actually cost me top 8 at regionals because I wrote it wrong on my deck list. But this card is actually really good because if your opponent's 3-4 and you want to go 2-2-2, using a burner is kind of cringe because if they cancel the burn, your swings are suddenly kind of troll. But if you can do 2-2-2 with the Clock Kicker, it's like the 2-2-2 is actually just all lethal. So kind of big deal there. And it's 11k, so it's also another beefy body, which is like most of the level 3 is all beefy. One copy of the Silica card. It's a healer. It's also anti-backup. So this card is pretty solid. Some decks, if you ever play against a deck that can out-battle phase you, you just use this card as the attacker, and it's over for them. 2 copies of another toolbox card. So this is like Asuna because it's on-play salvage, but because you don't have deck access, it's not perfect. Like in the same way that Asuna, because it doesn't have access to waiting room, it's not perfect card. But because Asuna can actually search this card from your deck, Asuna basically has access to your whole deck. But this card, because Asuna is already in your hand, this card doesn't have toolbox for your deck. So, yeah. But this card is super, super solid in itself. Dish 2, burn 1 is people say this deck's weakness is its finishing power. It is. I'll tell you right now, the finishing power in this deck is not something to take for granted because you can go Lisbeth, Musashi, chain Lisbeth into Musashi. That's a burn 1, and a Musashi. That's if your opponent's 3-3 or something, they're dead. They're dead. Those numbers are great. Without climax placements, you're killing people a lot of the time. Your finishing power in this deck is no joke, and it's usually off of this card because it's just you can just hold a copy of it and you can usually chain the second one as well for finishing power and it toolboxes. So it's just a great card for the deck all around. And last but not least, 2 copies of the early play Lisbeth Healer, being just an early play 1-cost healer. That's 11k again. 11k is super important. You have the fact that it's 11k at level 2, backed up by counters with Silica back row plus the Leafa 1k. You're winning level 2 games a lot of the time, and this card's just very essential to the game plan. So yeah, that's the toolbox lineup at level 3, and that's the list. For climaxes, it's 4 gold bar and 4 empty door. This door is from 10th anniversary. You can play any door. You can play 4 different doors just to be spicy. And in fact, you should probably play at least 2 different doors so your opponent thinks you might be playing more than 4 doors. But yeah, that's the deck list. Again, super, super good deck. I think putting Carmen, man, if putting Sao in the bottom of the barrel, I'm a little bit disappointed by you. You got fucking reamed by this deck in Japan, man. So yeah, shout outs to you. Shout outs to everyone. Should check out the Pittsburgh tier list video. I think it was a great watch. And yeah, this is the deck profile. If you like the Weiss content, definitely let me know. Leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And yeah, that's it for this video. It's UA signing off. Peace.